So cricket last stories with me, Neel Khagram. Today we're joined by Bazid Khan. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Yep, all good. So let's take it all the way back with yourself. You're born in Lahore. Um, Cricket was always in the blood there, wasn't it? Your grandfather, father,
Yeah,
uncle all played at the highest level. Was it inevitable then that you'd become a professional cricketer?
that's a question that a lot of people ask me. Was it inevitable? But I see it differently because I never, obviously, when I was young, when I started, I, I, people say that I was obsessive about cricket, which now my friends find it really absurd because now I'm so far removed, as in I don't have the same obsession as I did then, but there was an obsession. I never knew that my family had such a rich sort of cricketing history. That was only later when I'd actually started playing that I found that out slowly but surely. But it was never something that was instilled in me when I was very, very young. Um, I think because everybody around me played cricket, it was just something that everybody did. And in Pakistan, everybody does play cricket. But then there was an inbuilt obsession about myself from a very, very young age that I just wanted to play cricket full stop. Whatever happened, I wanted to play cricket. So be it in a sort of outside in the back garden or knocking against the wall. Um, what I've been told, or what I remember is that I've always been very obsessive about it.
And I mentioned your uncle, the famous
Mm.
Imran Khan. Did you
Yeah.
face any external pressure from the outside whilst you were growing up?
Um, yeah. Look, once I say this a lot. Once, especially in the subcontinent, once you start playing cricket, it's actually an advantage. So in age group cricket, it's an advantage because you've got your introduction done anyway. So everybody looks at you. Look, he's son of, or nephew of, or grandson of. So he might be good. So you've already got a head start. But after that, as you might know, that in Pakistan, India, and the subcontinent, you're always judged with your relative. You're judged unfairly with you, be it your father, your uncle, or whoever you're related to at a very young age. So once you start playing professionally, it's very difficult to get your own identification because it's always son of got 100 today or son of didn't score any runs today. So it's your own identification becomes very, very difficult. It's a um, very rarely does somebody who's related to a mega star or a super cricketer as his relative, very rarely does he get over or sort of grow out of that shadow because you're always inevitably compared to that. And I've said this a lot in many interviews. I've told people that look, maybe in the developed countries or maybe in the countries where there's a more formal cricket structure or cricket is played that way, maybe it's slightly easier there. But for instance, I talked to Rohan Gavaskar and he said when he was 12, he was compared to Sunil Gavaskar. So it's always a pressure that extra pressure, but I guess you have to live with it.
But you did mention that kind of lack of identity. Did that affect your game?
Look, I'd be lying if I said that it didn't affect my game. It affects your game in a way that when you're not doing well, it doesn't affect you when you are doing well because everybody's sort of happy with you and everybody talks you up. But when things don't go well and you're not scoring runs or you're not performing adequately, even if people don't say it, there's always a flying mention or passing mention. Even sometimes when I was playing, I sometimes sort of, uh, in my opinion, was given out. I wasn't out and was given out, and if I reacted to that, the first thing that would come back to me is that, oh, you're the son of Majid Khan. Why would you react like that? He would have never done that. But that's a small thing, but it does it sort of comes up to you and sort of keeps on nipping away at you, because of the fact that every time it's not something that you'll have one season. It's not something that you'll have sort of for a few games. It's something that'll stay with you throughout your career. And when the chips are down, I think when I wasn't scoring runs, or when I really had a bad season, it affected me in a lot of ways, because I knew that at the back of the minds, or at the back of everybody's, even in my own team or squad, people might be questioning, look, he's not getting runs, but he's still playing. Is it because he's related to, or is it because he comes from a cricketing family?
Then you represented Pakistan under 19s. I think you were 15 years old. Am I correct in saying that? And then you came over to England. Was that mainly for academic reasons, or was it to enhance your cricketing experience and skills, or was it a combination of both?
Look, when I started playing cricket, once I got sort of this into under 19s, and sort of started with under 15s, under 19s, and then a couple of years into that, I was very, very young, but a couple of years into that, I felt that I couldn't handle this, because there was almost every other day there was scrutiny on not the other players, but specifically me being in age group cricket, or me being in Pakistan side. So I thought, my father also thought that maybe time away from Pakistan, but it was I came to England to get my A levels, do my A levels. I was obviously lagging behind in my studies as well, because I was playing so much cricket. But then I came to England, and I did my A levels at Brighton College. It was a mixture of both. It was maybe trying to get away from cricket for a while, and maybe just concentrate on studying and get my A levels and all that. But it dragged me back. I couldn't stay where I came back to it very quickly.
And then you talked about scrutiny. If a youngster now came up to you in the same circumstances, having yourself gone through it, what advice would you give?
Look, it's gotten better, as in, because there's so much varied media interest now. When I played, it was just print media, and you had people, sort of few people writing, and few people sort of making the opinions, and anything that came into the newspaper was it. It wasn't, you didn't have a second reference to it. So now I think it's slightly easier in that effect, because you have social media. One opinion or one sort of article won't break you, or won't sort of have that effect, because there's so many more platforms for people to actually rebuff that, or to say something different. So it's slightly easier. The only thing I would say to somebody in the situation that I am, that it helps if you're, I know it's very, very difficult, but it helps if you don't react to it too much, because once you start reacting to it, then it sort of seeps into your own brain. And also, once you start reacting to that, then people, being people, they start needling you more. So it affects you a little bit. I saw this recently with Imam ul Haq, who gets quite a lot of flack with being Inzamam's related to Inzamam. And sometimes he comes out and says a lot of stuff on media. I don't know. I've not had a conversation with him, but I just feel that maybe he should dial it back. But maybe that works for him. Maybe that spurs him on in performing. But I feel that nowadays it's slightly better in the fact that there's a lot more cricket, a lot more opportunity cricket-wise, because you've got different leagues. You can sort of diversify. And also the fact that if there's one opinion, or one article, or somebody who writes uh, that you're not deserving, there are about sort of 10, 15 others who might just go on Twitter, might just go on social media and defend you. So it balances itself out slightly better, because I think that going back, say, 10, 15 years ago, you didn't have these types of platforms. So you only read the paper, you only listened to the news. And once you read the paper, the same paper would go around sort of almost to half of Pakistan, and everybody would basically form. If you don't know me, or if you don't know the player, you're reading about him and a couple of articles about him, stressing the fact that he's not deserving, or he's related to so and so. So that sort of basically forms the opinion. So maybe it's slightly better, but it is tough. I would say that try and block it out, which is impossible. You can't block it out. The one thing you have to be comfortable with it. You have to learn to live with it, because it's not going to go away. But the other thing is that make sure that you react to it minimum. There's a minimum reaction, so that once you don't react to it, then slowly people sort of back away.
And then during your time in England studying, Brighton College, you played with a certain Matt Pryor. How was he as a youngster playing in the same side as him?
Oh, I love my time at Brighton College. I've still got friends who I'm in touch with, and it was basically, my friendships were strengthened by the fact that we played cricket together a lot, and we had a very, very good college side. There's the England fielding coach also was in our college side, Hopkins. Carl Hopkins, I think. He's England's fielding coach now. He's also in that side. Prior, what I remember from Prior, he was always very feisty, and he had this self-belief that he was going to play for England from the word go. But the one thing that did stand out for me when he was playing cricket, or when we played in the same side, he was the one, more than anybody else, who was really up for it and really feisty and wanted it badly. So you'd always see that if somebody was going to make it from that team, it was going to be Pryor.
And then playing in England, different conditions to what you were used to back home, helped your game?
I played at Brighton College. It was a beautiful pitch at Brighton College, and then after that, a couple of years later, I played for the MCC. I did a year with the MCC Young Cricketers. To an extent, it did help the conditions, but more so the way, I think the MCC Young Cricketers helped me in the way that they made you think about your game. They would give you a question. They wouldn't instill ideas into your head. They wouldn't instill ideas into your head. They would actually make you think about where you were progressing. And they'd given us, it's quite interesting, they gave us forms on how you got out, or how do you think that what dismissals occurred during the season. And you when once you wrote them down, and you started thinking about your game, and then you'd start asking questions. And I thought that helped in my development as such, because then throughout my career, maybe I went a bit overboard with that, because I thought a lot about my technique. But throughout my career, I was always thinking about where technical changes should be made.
Yes, you mentioned there, is there a danger that sometimes if you're going through a lean patch, your mind might become a bit scrambled overthinking it? It's just that balance. A word on that, maybe?
Yeah, that's obviously I think, again, the balance thing is I look at a person like Yunus Khan, and Yunus Khan, he got 100, he'd react in the same way, he'd go around business in the same way. And once he didn't score any, or got out for, well, consecutive ducks, he reacted in way. But that is, I think it's, in my view, it's person to person. It's that ability to stay sort of level-headed, I would say, and not to go sort of too down or celebrate your successes too much. That I think that is the key to a longish professional career, or a strong professional career, is the ability to stay the same. Because a lot of players, myself included, when not scoring runs or not doing well, you'd bring that back home. You bring that feeling of gloom and doom until you got runs again. So balance, I think that is very, very important. And the great players achieve that. Obviously, everybody goes through failure, but to not let that dominate. I would say not let your dominate your day-to-day affair or dominate your life, um, or that sort of a week of your life, or 4 or 5 days of your life. That, I think, is the essence of having a longish professional career. I think tinkering with technique and all that everybody does, that everybody goes through, and everybody sometimes has a scrambled brain that people go through. But I'm a big advocate of being. I don't know how you get there. I think you need somebody to help you through that. But I'm a big advocate for players who have the ability to stay level-headed, or I would say that there's not many players who would go and say, I don't care if I score or not, I don't care. I think that's just that's not really possible if you're playing professional cricket. But the ability to stay and the ability to be sort of almost the same once you score 100, or you get out for no score, is vital. And I think Yunus did that beautifully, because he remained the same, and even when he was really struggling for form, a person just meeting him wouldn't know that he was struggling for form.
And then I think 2003, you came back and I think you were averaging around 70 with the bat, and then you were rewarded with a one-day call-up in the national side debut against Zimbabwe. A proud moment for yourself, being recognised for the national side?
Yeah, it was, and I obviously everybody wants to play for the Pakistan side, but the way that I got into the side, that I think the process of getting so many runs and getting into the side, that was quite pleasing for me. The fact that I'd done it off my own bat, and there was no questions asked at all that this guy isn't deserving into that side. I think it was very proud. I was very proud. Also, obviously, first outing in Pakistan colours, and I still was quite tense. And I think I played those games, but I didn't bat the way I normally did, and I regret the fact that, again, obviously I was scoring the runs, but I think mentally I needed a little more time in that team, just around that team to belong.
Yeah, so you played 3 one-dayers. You made your Test debut, only Test appearance against West Indies in 2005. I know you've represented your country, but does it pain you that you didn't play more?
Yeah, the only regret that I have is that I've not been tested at international level, or I myself don't know if I was bad, or if I was any good, or if I was decent, or whatever, because the sample size is so little. If I played
The
a few
selector should
games,
have backed you for longer?
well, it's interesting because this is after I sort of stopped playing, and I started media work and started commentary, and there was this one stat put up And I was taken aback. I was shocked, and then I thought about it, and then it all comes back to you, and you think that maybe I should have played more, because the stat was that to this day I am the only Pakistani international one-day international player who's been who hasn't played after scoring a 50. So the other two, one of them obviously my uncle who scored that 70 in that all famous final, but he retired. And then it was Salman Butt who got banned after that, so he didn't play again. He might play now, but he hasn't so far. But I was the only Pakistani who didn't play after scoring a 50 in his last ODI. And once you put that into that perspective, or look at it that way, that since Pakistan have played cricket sort of what 60 years now, 70 years, there's only been one instance where a player has scored a 50. So no, I'm sorry. So a 50 in one-day international. So that'll be what, from the 70s onwards. So that'll be 70s onwards, because one-day cricket started then. So that does sort of get your mind wandering. And the only regret is that why wasn't I sort of given a little bit of a run, and then if I wasn't good enough, I wasn't good enough. But the regret after playing so many years of first class cricket or sort of professional cricket is that I still do not know, and you only know once you play international cricket for a few games or a few matches. I still do not know if I was any good.
I know you touched on it there earlier about you felt that in that small sample size you weren't batting or making scoring your runs in the manner that you were in, say, the domestic scene. So would it be fair to say, for a youngster looking on, one tip that you could maybe give is maybe trust the process as opposed to be too all-encompassing about the actual result and the innings? Is it just about trusting the process and trusting your own game?
It is now trusting your own game, and it is now all about that. But I think that the games change as well. T20 cricket, you have the opportunity now to have that trust, because it's not about one failure. Even if you do fail, the avenues now have opened up so much more. You've got such big leagues that I think it frees the player up. What I touched upon earlier was my first couple of games. That was against Zimbabwe. Then I got dropped for a good 3-4 years, I think, and then I played in West Indies. I scored 60 against West Indies in a one-day game, and then I didn't play again for 3-4 years. I think those years, once when I played against the West Indies, when I debuted my Test match debut, and before that I played a one-day game where I was the highest scorer for Pakistan, and then I got dropped. And then I think those years I was batting really well, and then I came back into the side and played against, my last one-day game was against Bangladesh, and I got 50. So I think as a player who'd even I played five one-day games, and there's you'd been left out of the side for 3 times. So even that does have an effect. And I think sometimes the issue, maybe I'm wrong here, but as you said, express yourself. The issue then would become, once you're in the side and you play a couple of games, then you're dropped, then you come back into the side and you get runs, and then got dropped again. Once you come back into the side again, and this is not as if this is a player who's played 15 one-day games and then got dropped and come back and played another 10. This is a player who's played a couple of games, then got dropped, and come back and plays a couple of games and gets dropped. So the onus on me was, when I came back, that I had to score runs. So it was not a matter of expressing myself. It was not a matter of trying to play to the best of my ability, but it was the matter of just getting runs so that I don't get dropped. But I got those runs, but I got dropped again. But for a young player coming through nowadays, I think the emphasis is all about expression. The emphasis is all about actually it's almost gone the other direction. I would maybe suggest to players that maybe when you do play international cricket, maybe rein it in slightly, because you want to be, obviously you want to be staying in that side, and the only way that you stay in the side is that you start off scoring runs. And if you say, okay, be aggressive and be very expressive, I think the first few games in international cricket, you need to make a mark, as in you get your runs, and then you can progress further. That, I think, maybe this is old school, but that's the way I see it. Because sometimes now, because of this huge deal about expressing yourself a lot, sometimes you get carried away in that, and once you get carried away, you just might regret that um, after those innings. But I think it's totally the cricket has evolved so much in the last few years that it's totally different how everybody sees it and how everybody now plays it. And because I think T20 has made such a big role in international cricket, that expressing yourself is now just sort of second nature to all players.
And then when retirement came, were you ready for it mentally? And the transition into broadcasting, how have you found it? Talk us through that period.
Um, Retirement, I was I started not enjoying getting up to play a game. It started becoming a chore. I started sort of looking ahead to the games and thinking, well, three more games of the season left, and then the season will be over. And it came to a point. Then I started thinking that, is it? I kept on playing for a couple of seasons, but then I thought, is this why I started playing, or is this really why I want to carry on? Because I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, wasn't going to get selected again for Pakistan, and I wasn't enjoying it. Contrary to my cricket career, my broadcasting, I've been very lucky with that. It was basically by fluke that I got into that. Over here, there was an opportunity. There was, I think it was a Pakistan South Africa series going on, and in Pakistan television, somebody had just abruptly during the season left. So there was a space there, and I was luckily roped in. I did that, and the people close to me said, "Look, you've done quite well, because you normally everybody who's close to me knows that I'm not the outgoing and not the conversationalist, and not the one who's very expressive. But once I talked about cricket, I think it flowed much better. And then, fortunately, there was the head in 10 Sports, Zaid Noorani. Um, my father knew him, and he's been around broadcast for so long. And I talked to him, and he saw my reel on PTV Sports, and again, luckily the Champions Trophy was going on, and they had Waqar Yunus and didn't have another Pakistani expert, so they wanted me there, and I went there, and that was like a breakthrough. And then I did that, and it turned out. And after that, just luck would have it that I started doing a lot of Pakistani series, and as it went on, uh, I suppose I got better, and things got easier. But um, I think broadcasting is the next best thing. If you, obviously, you want to play cricket, obviously you can't replace that, but broadcasting is the next best thing. you're very close to the action. You're sort of describing, or you're analyzing the thing that you've done for all your life, and the thing that you love. But the best part is that you get to pick the brains of such high caliber cricketers and such high caliber sportsmen. I would say that I find very rewarding, because you have conversations with the like of, say, Ian Bishop, Alan Border, and all those big superstars of their era, even Viv Richards. You get to sit with them. You get to spend time with them, and the wealth of knowledge that comes through, it's fascinating. Um, the only thing I would say about broadcasting is that the initial phase, you need to get used to it. You do tend to struggle, and I did struggle. I still do struggle, but the best thing about it is that there's there's no pressure of playing, pressure of actually going out there and batting. And that's the only advantage to maybe the one plus point in broadcasting to cricket. But you always want to play. You always dream about playing cricket. But if there's a second best thing to it, that probably is broadcasting.
You talk about pressure, working also now in a live environment. Do you get nerves still? Different types of nerves? But you feel that slight pressure?
You do get nervous sometimes.
There's something that people don't really talk about from a broadcast perspective, because, say, cricket, everything ball by ball.
Yeah.
A word on it?
I think once you start, obviously the first year or so, even more. I think first couple of years, 3 years, I found it quite difficult, because it's a different art. You need to modulate, or you need to know what you're talking about. But the thing that helps, which people don't talk about, or people don't really, it's quite boring, but the thing that really helps, and I've learned this from the likes of, again, Ian Bishop, and the likes of Alan Wilkins, and the likes of people who've done broadcast for so long, is that research and prep is everything. Once you research and once you prep, and you've got stuff on players, and stuff on the issues surrounding the game right now, and whatever will be brought up, once you have that as a backup, not the stuff that sort of you're going to start off talking about straight away, but as a backup, so that you're never caught off guard. Basically, you've covered all your bases. For instance, doing the Under-19 World Cup, you need to do all the prep. You'd get a lot of information, but you'd know about the players, the background, so you wouldn't stumble. So if you have that broad base, it helps you, because at the back of the mind, you always know that you can fall back on something, so you're not going to stumble. There is pressure. There is obviously there is that element, but the best advice that I got was, look, once you're holding the mic, you're the boss, and even if you do stumble, or if you do make a mistake, right there and then you can joke about it, because that way it cuts the ice to the viewer. The viewer always then also sees you as not a sort of a professional, just a normal human being. So once you're able to sort of not make fun of yourself, but to able to make fun of the mistake you've done, or make fun of what you've done wrong, and not necessarily correct it there, but say, oh, I've taken the name wrong, or that helps you a lot. I think I don't think you can, in any field, in any I think broadcast, or any sport or live sport, if you're not slightly apprehensive, you won't be able to do a good job, because if you're not slightly apprehensive, or if you're not slightly sort of buzzing, then I think you're not really up for it. You're just going through the motion. So that's the way I think about it. I see other broadcasters or other commentators and think, how do they do it? Because it just comes so naturally to them, and they don't seem flustered at all at any given moment. But the way I process, or the way I go through it, I think the biggest thing that I do now is that even before a Pakistani game, even before any game, I make sure that I have all the information that I can get, and ask all the relevant people about the players, about the game, about the conditions, everything, so that if there's a lull, or if somebody asks me something out of the box, I'm able to then have that information and be comfortable with it.
And then your views on the current Pakistani side at the moment?
um,
In terms of
the,
talent, players,
the
selection.
issue I
Is the
the
side
issue I
moving in the right
have
direction, in your opinion?
the issue I have with the Pakistani side is that we've got this since God knows when. We've got this word called rebuilding, or we're looking at the future, which I found absolutely ridiculous. If you're playing international cricket, it's the future is now. That you've got to win the game or the series that's up in front of you. We don't know what's going to happen 5 years ago. We don't know if the potential of this young bowler or this young batsman will be so great that on the next tour he'll win you the games. You want to win now. So yes, potential, talent, all those words, yes. But the bottom line is that if you don't win games, if you don't win series, you can't keep on saying that we're building a team. How long do you build a team? Yeah, again, this current tour, you had this is the first time in a long time where on an overseas tour you had the opportunity to win a test match, or win a series, and you let it go. But it's been like that for quite a while, and um, people are saying that it's going in the right direction, but I'm not quite sure. They've restructured the first class system here, but again, it needs a lot of work. I don't think that um, they've gone for 6 teams. I don't think that 6 teams are enough for a one sport nation where everybody just plays cricket. If cricket is number one, then every other sport, the next best sport is number seven. So I don't think that's enough. I think yes, uh, we'll always have talent. We'll always have the potential, but we hide behind that a lot, because every tour that goes wrong is that we're rebuilding a team. So I've never, not since, I don't say, I think since 1999, I've not once heard anybody say that, okay, we've done our rebuilding. This is the team which is now going to win us games. We waited for that a long, long while. And it's just, I really start hating it when coaches and when commentators and when everybody starts saying that, look, this 17-year-old bowler or this batsman has a lot of potential, he'll do well in the future. Well, it's international cricket. If you want to do well at international cricket, it's day in, day out. You can't sort of say, okay, I back this player for him to then do well 5 years later and then win Pakistan games, or then Pakistan will be a good side. Yes, you can say 6 months, okay, you're rebuilding a team, but you've got to get results. And if England turned it around, and then if they hadn't won in that super over, I think those 4 years would have really been a problem, because everybody was focused on building a side, and they built the side and they won the World Cup. So, and then if you're building a test side, then the test side should be able to win away from home. So, if you want to see the angry, well, I don't normally get angry. If you want to see me, the animated side of me, then you just have to say, read the rebuilding process.
Perfect, Bazid. Really appreciate your time. Great
No
to talk
worries.
through your career and your views
Thank
on
you.
all things Pakistan. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Neel Khagram, Cricket Last Stories, Bazid Khan. Thank you.